Good morning, and good afternoon, good evening. It's another Wednesday, another episode of our Love My 2 TV, LMTV Wednesday Technical Forum or Weekly Technical Forum. So I have a very, very exciting panel for you today. Our special guest today is John Smith from LiveAction, whom you have met. We had interviewed him on this show as well as articles that he had published in the past on Love My Tool. We're going to do a live demo today, but I'll come back to that. But first, let me introduce you to our other panel members. We have our Paul Offord from London. Hi, Paul. Good morning.
Hi.
Good evening. Good evening. Yeah. So, so I understand that weather has cooled down a bit for you.
Yeah, it's in fact it looks as though it's about to rain quite heavily. It's gone very black, so let's hope that doesn't lead to a power cut and internet failure and all those good things.
If you keep going like that, you might.
I'll hang on in there as long as I can.
Yeah, that'll be great. And then we also have Tim. Tim, could you good afternoon, good morning, good afternoon, Tim. Could you introduce a new panel member to us?
Yeah, certainly could. It'd be a delight. Everybody on our panel today is Hartman. Martin, wave to everybody so they know that that's you. This is Hartman Marshall. He's with Resource Communications. He's an extremely long-time friend of mine. He's a great guy. Don't can't publish that. And he's a long-term, very trusted technologist. And Hartman works for Resource Communications. They just recently took on LiveAction to sell in the United States. I don't know what their actual territory is, but they felt it was such a good product and offered such good benefit. I like to tell people simply that it's a single plane of visualization, and as you all know, visualization is the only way to find out what's going on in your network. And if you can't see it, you're never going to fix it. And, you're never going to know it's there, and that's not good. So delighted to have Hartman with us, and also great to have John back.
Thank you, Tim. So before I introduce John and let him do his thing today, I think it's important to remind everyone that even though we talk a lot about being vendor neutral on Love My Tool and doing our best to present technology to our readers that are unbiased and what Tim likes to say, fact-based, right, which is a very new concept. But in reality is that we are all vendors. We were all vendors. Tim and I, particularly, that's how we built a career was in selling equipment. So we care a great deal about our sponsors and the product that they have. We wouldn't even be talking to them if we didn't feel that they have something very unique to offer to our readers. So today we're actually doing something very unique. We're doing a live demo, and so we're asking one of our sponsors, John, to come back. And it just happens that they also have some new features. So it's a perfect opportunity for us to try out a new venue and also for John and his company to present their product to our readers. So good morning, John.
Morning.
I understand that you guys did survive 2 very tiny hurricanes, so.
Yeah, it didn't really have much effect on us, except on the Big Island they had some, but it missed us over here.
Thank goodness.
So we talk about your demo today, and you mentioned that you might just go in and start by giving some background information. So why don't you take over?
Yeah, sure. So I can show you some information here. Let me share my screen. So one of the things that we did was, we're seeing a lot of adoption with NetFlow and IPFix, and we see a lot more vendors, producing really rich data. And we're kind of surprised by this, but we're also very happy because it provides our customers and network engineers much more visibility into the network that we haven't seen in the past. And one of the things that's kind of changing is you're seeing a lot more like smart controllers, not necessarily SDN, but controllers for the WAN. And Cisco introduced a few of these. One of them is called PFR. and it's producing a lot of interesting analytics. It's not even related to the actual traffic flow. It's about the controller metrics, but it gives you this really rich data set. So I want to be able to, I'll give you a demo of that information. But one of the things we realized is people are turning on NetFlow everywhere. So one of the things that we did was make our product scalable. So you can put in collector nodes wherever in the network to create massive amounts of data. But at the end of the day, like Tim mentioned, you got to be able to visualize this. So we actually can absorb it and show it in a way that's understandable for everybody. So that's some of the things that we've been working on, and we also added another capability which I'll demonstrate, which is network changing configuration management. So I mean, there's a lot of NCCM tools out there, but we kind of felt that the ability to work with that type of capability with our tool just expands the tool set for our customer base too.
That sounds good.
Hey, John, did you say that you handled FIX protocol, the Financial Information Exchange Protocol?
Oh, no, I actually meant the IPFix, which is kind of a RFC IETF standard now for NetFlow.
Okay. I wanted to make sure because I was like, wait a minute, what's FIX got to do with, I'm sorry, I'm getting old and my ears are bad.
Also, John, in the past we try to be sure that we have a short, we don't go over the half-hour limit, but
right.
that shouldn't apply today. So take your time, because I think that our audience who comes to this particular show, they come because they're interested in what you have to say. So just go ahead and take your time, okay?
Okay. So I'll show a little bit about the product overall, and then I really want to show what you can do with the capabilities. So I think you can see my PowerPoint.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm not going to do a whole lot of PowerPoint. I just want to kind of phrase what I'm going to be demonstrating. So like I mentioned, distributed scale PFR v3 is something that's really new that I wanted to discuss with you as well. But like I mentioned, one of the things that we did was, make this capabilities for NetFlow at a massive scale. So we made this distributed architecture. But the benefit is, being able to see flows across all your sites and being able to see application performance. And we built a very scalable architecture where, you can have visual analytics at the top, distributive analytics and search, and then having this ability to put nodes for collecting information in certain security zones or in certain geographical regions. So we spent a lot of time, and we're really happy that we got this release out and our customers are using it. But at the end of the day, it's this massive amount of data, and this is some of our test systems that we have. So you can see thousands and thousands of devices and the actual flows going across it. And I'll demonstrate that as well. So the other thing that's interesting is the Cisco IWAN capability, and what this is doing is, our customers were, reliant on MPLS for their WAN services, but they're realizing that the internet is getting much, much better, and they want a choice. So from their branch office, being able to go directly to the internet, don't have to backhaul it back to their data center or their headquarters site, or having different types of options. So using the Cisco WAN capabilities, intelligent WAN, they can actually, have a controller that says high priority traffic, use MPLS. Lower priority traffic, like bulk data, use the internet for cost purposes. So the controller is smart in rerouting traffic based off of the needs. So video voice takes precedence, and it'll take the best path, for example. But Cisco came to us, and we worked with the Cisco PFR team because there wasn't any tools that was bringing out that information about the controller. So on the first release of PFR v3, which is their next generation capabilities, we're the actual product that's going to be providing all the analytics for them. So we're pretty happy about that. And I'm going to switch over to my demo real quick here. So this is LiveAction, and I've demonstrated in the past before, but one of the things you'll notice is these are the actual routers. So the bigger circle is the actual device, the smaller circle is the actual interface. But what we can do now is really zoom out and show you, like, at a massive scale what your actual networks look like.
John, we're still seeing the slide set at the moment.
Oh, you are? Okay. Let me get rid of that. Let me change that. How's that?
Not yet. Not yet.
Okay. Okay, let me. I think this is it.
Ah, that's it. Looks good.
Okay. I think I was sharing just the PowerPoint, so.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is the new LiveAction 4.0, and I think I've demonstrated in the past, but this shows you the topology. So the bigger circles are the actual routers, smaller ones are the interfaces, and we lay this out automatically for you. But the cool thing now is we can show you at a massive scale your entire network, because each individual section of this could be collected by a separate node in a different region, for example. And when you click on the nodes, we show you where we actually getting the data, but you can have 8, 10 of these nodes. So as large a network as you have, we can actually bring this in. And some of our customers are really big retailers with thousands of sites, and they tend to have multiple connections. So what I'm showing here is in the middle is like a data center, and it has a data center router, WAN edge router, and they typically have multiple connections to their branch offices. So they might have an internet connection, they might have MPLS, but they might also be running DMVPN. So you can imagine that there's going to be multiple connections from their data centers out to each of their branches, and they've actually never been able to visualize and understand how those connections are. And this is actually what it looks like. So at a massive scale, you can have thousands of sites connected back to your data center, know exactly how it's connected. But I can zoom in on a particular site, and we can drill down all the way down to exactly how the interfaces are connected, what the actual connections are, what the bandwidth are, what the flows are. So it's very interesting for our customers, and being able to get this level of visibility to understand what the connections are.
So do you just hover over the object and it lights up, or do you have to click on it?
You can click on it too. So in the other part of the demo, I'll go more into detail, but I just wanted to show you from this one the ability to see situational awareness at the high level of large amounts of sites. And pretty much the green tells you everything is good. Orange tells you that there might be drops or other issues. If it's red, then you got some CPU or memory type issues there. So going back into a closer view here, so this is basically NetFlow, and we've expanded the capability to actually do this at scale. So people tend to see NetFlow using graphs and reports, but when you really visualize it in this manner, it actually gives you a lot more information about directionality. And I think I mentioned in the past that having this type of view at our customer site, they've always found something wrong. And it's because they realize that it's coming out the wrong interface or other information. But some of the things that we've added is, if people are familiar with, Wireshark, and there's a lot of things you can do with that. And part of that power of Wireshark is the ability to do filtering and search. So what we did was, we enhanced that. So you can say, show me things that are flow related. And from flow, it's such a rich data set that you can see all these different types of field that you can actually, find. So one of the things I could do is go flow DSCP equal to EF, and it'll autofill this for you. So it'll find all the different flows that are marked EF across this network and be able to see exactly what's going on. So it's pretty powerful to have the search capabilities, and we also added things like, I want to see only things that are related to my San Francisco site. So it makes it very easy to find, understand, and visualize, the different types of traffic that you're having, or different types of issues. So it's kind of an interesting way to have a search with the visual capability to understand things.
It's also, when you have an attack and your network's under attack, the dynamics of the network change very rapidly. And one of the first questions everybody asks is, what does your network look like? Tell me your network. And since this is proactive, this would be a great tool for someone that's involved in a mitigation of a network attack, because it gives you almost an instant map of your network.
Yeah, definitely. So some of the things you can do that we've added is, we have some, this is an IP security camera, and you can actually double click on this flow and find out a little bit more information about that guy. So, okay. So let me just change this here. And so I double click, and we added ability to actually be able to drill down into this information. I keep clicking, it keeps collapsing and expanding my group here. But so one of the things we did was make it easy to understand path of flow. So this is that video traffic, and at the high level we can tell you things like packet loss. So there's some loss happening here and loss events. But I can double click this to understand what path it actually took. So it actually made these particular hops along these different routers, but we started cross-correlating more the data. So if you look at this table, it shows you the CPU utilization on each hop of these different routers. So each column is a different device. The exact inbound outbound interface, which QoS policies, and you can see that there's actually some drops happening on this inbound policy. And also, the actual infrastructure is getting smarter, where they're producing a lot more rich data, like jitter, packet loss, loss events. So from one screen, you get an overall view, but we can also project this back into the topology, so we can actually see where that problem is occurring. So great analytics, but provide visualization so people can understand it.
Is layer 2 a blind spot, John? Do you feel, or how would you know if you had some sort of layer 2 issue?
Yeah, so layer 2, we actually do go into the layer 2 QoS MIBs, and we can show you where there's drops and bandwidth utilization. And we see more and more NetFlow coming off of the switches too, and also on the wireless LAN controllers. So our ultimate goal is being able to cross-correlate all this information. It's just a massive amount of data that's coming out. Yeah.
That's neat. I really like that. I love that visualization. It's really good.
You need to get Paul a demo.
So one of the things that we added was the ability to actually drill down into reports. So at the end of the day, the visualization is nice, but you still want to get the data. So I can actually double click on this packet loss, and it'll bring up a report over time of what that jitter or packet loss looked like. And you can also drill down. So I've been mentioning the amount of massive data. So you can imagine, NetFlow has so many dimensions. I can cross-correlate this to other views in terms of like DSCP, for example. So what does that look in terms of like DSCP? What does that look in terms of IP address sets? So it's much more data, much more correlation that we've actually provided, and we give you like a trail of reports so you can see it all in the different dimensions that you're interested. So this makes it very easy for our customers to troubleshoot a lot of these complex issues, because we're seeing a lot more UC collaboration tools being used, but it's not just simple, this guy talked to that guy, and you got the control plane traffic. If you're using it off of a SAS, you got control plane traffic going on SAS. Some of the traffic might be peer-to-peer, and it's really complicated. And without having a visual, it's kind of hard to like decipher. Is it really the SIP traffic that's wrong, or is it really the data plane traffic that's wrong? So we kind of help you decipher a lot of that information.
John, one question. You mentioned that you partnered with Cisco, but all of that information you showed right now, that's basically vendor independent, right? You can show the flows for Juniper or any other vendor. Is that correct?
Yeah, so we're getting more and more, we can bring in data from Juniper, JFlow, Palo Alto, some of the other security devices. We actually recently announced with Ixia. So Ixia has a packet broker system, and we're actually being able to bring in their data. And each vendor tends to have a unique set. So the Ixia product has ability to say, the browser OS version, which browser they're using, geolocation information. So it's great because every vendor, has their unique magic sauce, and they're able to actually, pump that data. We'll bring it in. We'll help you analyze it. It's really good. So some of the
John, sorry, I was just going to ask a couple of other questions.
Sure.
Do virtual switches, as in the sort of thing that you see in ESX hosts, do they present a problem?
Not typically. So we see a lot of VSS, virtual switching, and they tend to look like a separate switch on its own. So that makes it a little bit more challenging because, with virtual switches, but also virtual networks, trying to understand, how that traffic maps to the underlying physical infrastructure as well. So we can actually bring in a virtual switch, show you that data, but ultimately we can also show you at the physical level what's going on too. So that's actually a really good question. Yeah.
Are you able to cope with things like a VM being vMotion to another host? Does that upset things, or?
Not too much. So we kind of bring in data, and as whatever traffic from like the virtualized infrastructure hits the physical switches, we'll actually show you that. So as things move, you'll actually be able to see that visually. So you'll see that my endpoint here was coming off of this particular interface, but after vMotion, it might be across the data center, and you'll see it actually at a different point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, that's a really good point. That as things become more mobile, being able to visually see, because that report that you ran on that one interface is not going to work, 3 hours later potentially.
Absolutely. And the other thing is, documenting a network has been challenging enough, but when you've got things moving around as well, it's going to be impossible. So I think this sort of dynamic tracking and the dynamic detection of the configuration of a network is becoming more and more important.
Right, definitely. And one of the issues that we see very, very common, and we are a QoS control tool, so we do a lot of things related to quality of service. And what we see is people don't understand or lack visibility into like the DSCP marking. So we see this all the time where they don't know exactly where the DSCP trust is happening, even if the application is actually marked properly. So I have a test traffic here going across my network, and it looks fine, but if I slice it by DSCP markings, you'll actually notice that it's actually two different colors here. And the colors are telling you that, yeah, it started off getting marked as EF, but part of the traffic is marked as best effort. So this is actually voice traffic. And you're probably going to have to, make some changes here where you're not marking it properly. So we could go back to the QoS tab. We can see that there's a policy applied on the inbound. I can double click on that, and I can look at my QoS policy. So I think the power of the tool is the fact that we can cross technologies from NetFlow now back to quality of service, look at the QoS policies, and be able to make the change to actually start marking it properly. So we have some pretty good workflows in that aspect. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Without that visualization, a lot of network engineers are trying to figure out where the misconfiguration is within the network and QoS misconfiguration, and it's sometimes a nightmare to figure that out.
Right. Definitely. So there's a lot of tools that provide a lot of reporting, but at the end of the day, if you don't understand what's happening at the high level, it's really hard to make those policy changes for people. And some of the additional things that we've added was more dashboard capability across all the different nodes. So, the visualization is nice, but a lot of times you just want to see at a high level what's going on. So, we bring in all the flow alerting, so you can alert off of different situations. So if you have a high media rate, loss, all those different types of trending data. But we'll give you the usual top 10 information. But one of the things that we're seeing more and more the infrastructure telling us is things like, top applications. And it's smarter in that they're using deep packet inspection, so you can see things like, Microsoft Office, Citrix, YouTube, all based off of deep packet. But we can also show you things like, top voice and video performance issues. So I have real-time protocol, which Cisco device, what's my jitter and loss events. But I think the thing that's making a lot more difference for our network engineers and also application engineers is the ability to understand application and network performance in the same view. So what we're seeing is application performance data in terms of like network delay or application delay being provided by the infrastructure. So here I can show you that Citrix has a certain amount of network delay, but also on the application side what the delay is. And they're using the whole TCP stack to understand on the client side, the server side, what the actual delay measurements are. You can also dig down into like retransmissions. So the network is getting more application aware and smarter to actually tell you where the problems are.
And you're achieving this, John, without having to do packet capture. This is still all based on flow information. Is that right?
Right. So you're alleviating the fact that you have to create this infrastructure to capture all the packets. Now you could do it at the flow level, which is an order of magnitude less complex to deploy and cheaper, frankly. But we're seeing more and more of the infrastructure providing this data. So it's not totally related to SDN, but you can see the infrastructure capabilities growing over time with network function virtualization and just the controllers being a lot smarter and being able to pump all this data. But the trick is making sense of it. I mean, it's easy enough to capture all this. Well, capturing all this flow is hard, but making sense of it from like the dashboard perspective, but also from the visualization perspective, I think is going to be the big challenge.
Yeah.
So I'm going to switch gears a little bit and talk about PFR. So I have another network that has that, but let me just show you what we've done. So let me just shift this. So this is our PFR demo, and what PFR is really about is giving you choices and being able to control your WAN more intelligently. And we work with the Cisco development team on this. And we see more and more players coming into this space, providing this intelligent WAN. So it's not just about WAN optimization, but it's also, intelligent path selection and quality of service. So what you're seeing here is like you have a Palo Alto main hub, and on the right-hand side you have a Los Angeles branch and a New York branch. And what the PFR controller allows you to do is, for your high-priority traffic, take the actual service provider that's going to provide you the better service. So I have two service provider clouds, the one in gray and the one in blue. So the controller in real time, using things like IPSLA and passive and active measurements, will make the decision for you. But what was lacking was an analytics tool to tell you, what is really going on. What did the controllers do? It's great that, more and more as you go into SDN, you're going to have controllers that are going to do a lot of things for you. But you got to understand what it's doing, because you need to set the high-level policy in terms of like what is priority, what are the service providers doing. So from this particular visualization, what we provided was the analytics from the controller. So this is using flow, but it's not about the data plane flow. It's about the control plane action. So it's really interesting that flow is getting used to provide control plane data now. And what this dashboard is telling you is, at the top level, the different alerts that the controller is telling you. And the controller is pretty smart in that it's measuring all the traffic and understanding the loss, delay, jitter, and reachability, not only of the application, but of the different sites. So from a glance, you can tell that I'm having a certain amount of delay, and I'm having a certain amount of jitter, and also unreachability. And then we can actually see it on the top right widget, what site to site are having the problem. So my Los Angeles to Palo Alto, that direction is having a lot of delay and reachability issues. So the controller can actually slice and dice that WAN and tell you that information. So it's kind of an interesting metrics to get. Yeah. And then the other thing that we can show you is, across your entire WAN, how are the alerts, segregated by the different sites. So on the middle portion here, on the site, you can see all the alerts are pretty much coming out of the Los Angeles office. So right at the from seeing this, you can tell that you probably need to go to the Los Angeles area and see what's going on. But you can also see site utilization by application groups. So the controller works off of like the different types of apps. So you can see, voice, video, traffic, and you can see the split of, how much traffic is really voice, how much of it is video from your different sites. And on the furthest right, you can actually see the utilization of a site by service provider. So you're using much more service provider 1 than the service provider 2. So, to get this information previously was a lot of reports, but now you get it in one dashboard. And the middle, the application group section, does the same dimensional cut where which of your application traffic had the most issues. So my best effort had the most delay, jitter, and unreachability issues. In terms of like the bandwidth usage, I can see that voice and which site it's being used the most. And then again at the service provider level. So it's like an amazing way to like get a pivot table of what's happening in your WAN.
Yeah, that's neat.
And then the controller gives you much more data, so you can see all the delay issues across time, for example, from different sites to different sites. And then you can drill down into all the different dimensions. So if you want to debug, if you're going to deploy PFR v3, you really need this type of analytics to understand what's going on. Yeah.
I think I've seen 100 pages so far. Just this is incredible. I mean, it would take someone a few days to figure out what all these analytics are and where they are, how to define. I mean, this is awesome. I mean, this is certainly like getting an encyclopedia when you want to look up one word, and at the same time getting so much visualization. There you go.
Right. So we kind of know there has to be a balance between all this, low-level data, but really orienting the user about their WAN performance from this dashboard. So I think that was pretty critical for us to do.
In practice, John, I noticed I had a quick look on your website when we were preparing for the show and what have you, and you talk about application and network performance management and involvement from network engineers and from application people. How readily do the application people absorb this sort of information? Do they look at it and go, oh my God, it's networking, I don't really want to know anything about it, or can you engage them?
I think we're getting better at that, and I think these dashboards are pretty helpful. So I think from the network infrastructure perspective, those topology views are great. But I think from the application perspective, you kind of really need these types of dashboard to engage the application folks, because they're really worried about end user experience more. Yeah, and being able to translate loss, delay, jitter, unreachability to what the application folks really need to understand. So I think unreachability is probably like the most important, because if you have no reachability, you have absolutely horrible user experience. So I think over time, we'll be able to merge that gap even more. But I think this is like a good start to get there. Yeah. Okay. I got one more thing to show you. I hope, Denny, we still have time. Oh, yeah.
He's on mute, but I think he said yes.
So I'll speak for him. Go ahead and show us lots.
Okay. So one of the things we integrated was the capability to do configuration management across multi-vendor. So we integrated with this product called NetLD. So in the shipment in August, we'll have this. So this is a standard NCCM capabilities, but it's a very scalable solution. So it does the usual backup of configs. You can do diffs between various configs, for example, and see what's changed. So we have all this capability. And what we wanted to do was we do QoS configuration. So we've been known for QoS, flexible NetFlow, ACLs, all the different deep Cisco configuration capabilities. But our customers always had other tools or other products like the Juniper, Aruba, Palo Alto. So they wanted the ability to do configuration. So teaming with this product to integrate into our solution set was a natural thing, and we've seen people that are interested. So the ability to be able to push, every type of command. So I can go to any device, do an inventory, do a backup of the iOS. But it's also things like, commands. So you can actually send a command to all the different devices. So show IP interface, for example, and you can execute that. But they also have, ability to make, changes like user account and things of that sort across multiple vendors. So it's kind of things that you want to be able to do at scale, where you don't want to go in by one by device. So we added that capability. So I think it's a good complement. But it also has very interesting capabilities in terms of like terminal proxy. So instead of like having to log into each device by itself, you can actually proxy in, and you don't have to know the username or login because this tool already knows that. So it'll provide a secure SSH very easily, just saying connect to any of your devices. And it has search capabilities. So if you want to find, certain things like, QoS policies across all your different types of devices, it'll actually do the search. And it has wildcard searches, regular expressions. And the other thing is like compliance checks. So if you wanted to write a rule to see, certain types of policies applied on a certain set of routers, you can do that and get a pretty fast, quick check of what's being applied and what part of the network, for example. So that's just a quick overview of some of the capabilities that's coming out in the August timeframe.
Wow, that's pretty awesome.
Thank you, John.
Yep.
I wonder, I think Paul probably have some comments, and Tim probably do too, but I wonder if I could ask Harmit to make some comments. You're at the front line. You're closer to the customer than any one of us right now. When you're just starting to work with John on this product, it must be very exciting to you. What do you say to your customer? What impact does this have, you think, to the landscape?
This has a huge impact. As I mentioned in between our webcast here, particularly the QoS management, misconfiguration in networks, and so on. Network engineers spend so much time in figuring out all these different types of misconfigurations and why do I have congestion there and so on. So this type of tool helps them tremendously to reduce time to resolution and basically enhance the customer experience, and that's the main goal, because when the CEO or any VP or so is very unhappy about the network performance, he cannot reach the right people he needs to talk to now. Then this is bad for the network engineers, and so this is really a tremendous tool, and not just for large companies, but also for mid-sized and even smaller companies. This can reduce the time, and also even not so skilled workers to basically figure out what's going on in the network.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask a follow-up question, which is one that is a little bit more practical, even more practical in terms of selling. Being a new product and from a relatively new company, by definition, our customer is not budgeted, right? They really don't budget for something that hasn't existed yet. This product, when you go to your customer, how do you solve that problem? How do you solve the budgeting problem? Is there any immediate savings to them by deploying this product so they can justify it easily?
Yeah. As I said before, just the time-saving aspect, when they see how much time they can actually save for time to resolution, this alone can basically help them to justify the purchase of this type of product, and particularly mid-sized to larger companies, they have, let's say, a test equipment budget where they didn't necessarily have specified, okay, we're gonna buy this or this product, but they know they need to do something to have better visual access to the network and what's going on. And when they see this tool, they're absolutely thrilled, and you actually get in the budget line. And sometimes they even try to find somehow the budget for this type of tool.
Because I noticed that in my previous life selling products, the customers are excited that you're improving his or her life, but somehow within the corporation that doesn't get much traction, right? Because vice president not interested in how their employees want to spend more time with the family, and
no.
So in the end, it's all about how to save money for the company.
Yeah, and the great thing is also the pricing structure that LiveAction has. The customer can basically decide if they want to get actually and purchase outright with perpetual licenses, or if they actually maybe want to tap into not the capital budget but the operational budget, they can use the subscription licenses and basically have lower costs year to year, and always get the full support and everything, and can basically use a different bucket. They can take this out instead of the capital, the operational budget. This also helps tremendously.
I see. Thank you. And one last question, and then I'm going to turn to Paul. On a more personal level, I know you're very selective in terms of who you represent out there. You know, which vendors you represent. How does LiveAction fit into your portfolio? Is there any synergy between LiveAction and the other, equally impressive product that you present?
Oh, absolutely. And John actually.
And what do you represent, by the way, Hamid? Just give you a free plug here.
Yeah, we basically at Resource, we're really specialized in test and test access. And John actually mentioned previously the cooperation between LiveAction and Ixia, and Resource Communications also represents Ixia and the packet brokers, the Anui, the old Anui product that is now part of the Ixia product line. So we also represent this product, and there is it's a great synergy. So for us, LiveAction really absolutely fit perfectly into our product portfolio, and we're really glad to have LiveAction in our portfolio.
Oh, excellent. Thank you very much. Hey, Paul, how does something like LiveAction help you? Could it help your work, or how would it? What do you think, Paul?
I think that there are a number of areas it addresses. I've already mentioned the one about documentation and the ever-changing landscape. With, I go to lots of customers, and they've got big teams of people, but maintaining documentation is just such an arduous task, and they just cannot keep up with the rate of change. So that ability to do that automated discovery and to map out the infrastructure in that way, that's very attractive. In my naive way, I always thought that things like DSCP and things, you classify your packets at the edge and then nobody touches it, but I know in reality people fiddle with the the control point settings, so that's attractive. And that ability to quickly identify something like that, I can see how that would be very attractive to our customers. And in a large network operations team, I think as John and Hamid have both said, sheer productivity gains should be taken into account here. Whether the bean counters actually do is something else, but I really do think that it could save an awful lot of time. So I like what I see. I'm a bit concerned about the layer 2 stuff, because the other thing I guess I take away from this whole session is just how little I know about flow, and I'm going to go away over the next week and learn a lot more about flow, because I've always been a packet man, and capturing packets at current rates 10 gig and upwards is becoming a real challenge. So the more we can achieve with flow data, the more attractive that is. So I really like that aspect as well.
Thank you, Paul. Well, let me turn to another packet man, Tim.
Well, I think one great thing about any good visualization tool is the educational capability, the learning, because everybody comes out of college, and basically you come out of college and you know how to learn. You don't really know enough to be dangerous, and you get thrown into a network, and every network is like every human and has a complete different neural path. And a device like a tool like this, or solution like this, I don't want to call it tool. Tool to me is like a screwdriver. This is much more sophisticated. A device like this would let someone really begin to learn their network. I think the great example you used was just that IP phone or the IP camera. Just simple that. I mean, you could do the same thing for a voice over IP call, or a voice video call, and it helps people understand the weakness in their networks, and it's becoming an imperative. John will say that. I mean, it's becoming imperative to know what's going on in your network and have at least a basic capability of finding out where's my problem, instead of trying to run through the network and, the old adage, turn it off, turn it back on, stand on your right leg, jump up and down 3 times, and then we'll see if that fixes it. That you can't do that anymore. And Paul made a great point. Packet capture today, there are 2 basic thought processes. One, I've got to capture everything so that I can use that for my post-analysis, mitigation, e-discovery, whatever. But at 100 gigs, trust me, you're going to see more packets in a millisecond than we used to see in a week when I first started in the industry. Of course, that was back in Morse code days, but that's different. And you're going to have alternate visualization capability, and this is great. And the fact that that Cisco and other people can have jumped on it. It's and of course, I've always been a big fan of the Inui product, which is now Ixia, and they have really expanded their packet broker. So this just adds even more to it. So this is really, that's why I wanted John on. That's why I went out and recruited John to come back. Not just because he is sponsoring, because I like him, but I really wanted people to know that there's really tools out there that are just, or solutions out there that are just incredible.
So. Thank you, Tim. So we're going to close the show. I'm going to give John a chance to summarize for us. But John, imagine I'm the network engineer, and I just somehow accidentally or purposely tune into this episode. I watch a demo. I hear what Hartman has to say, and John and Paul. I am so excited. This is going to save my life. But help me. I got 3 minutes. I'm going upstairs. I'm going to talk to my vice president. I'm going to try to convince him for this. I only have 3 minutes. Help me to summarize this so that I can explain it to my boss?
Yeah, I think the key point is that businesses need to be agile. Businesses need applications. It's a cloud mobile world, and that all needs to operate. And even within your organization, you need UC collaboration. You need to be agile. And to make all that happen, it's really your network infrastructure. And to really be able to control that, understand it, set high-level policies, and at the end of the day, being able to fix that using our quality of service configuration capabilities, that really drives business value. If you can't make sure that your customers have access to your services, nobody wins. And also, even within your organization, when the groups within your organization can't collaborate effectively, the business loses. So, you really need visibility, but at the end of the day, it's really that control and being able to fix that in a very efficient manner.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
I'd wait until they'd had a painful experience, and I'd go up and see the VP, and I'd say, that 3-day problem we've had with voice quality. Well, would you like to fix it? $100,000, and you can fix it. Sign here, please.
Pay me now or pay me later.
Hey, I might mention one thing. Paul, you mentioned you're going to go study a lot about NetFlow. John has a guy that works for him that I've known for, oh God, forever, and it's Keith Parsons. He calls himself Dr. NetFlow. That's what he used to tell all the women, at least. But he's a really great guy, and if you want me to put you in touch with him, if he can't answer the question, trust me, he'll come up with an answer somehow. And he is a great guy. He's crazy as hell, but a super expert in this arena, and he'd love to meet you and talk to you. He's a goober. He's a geek like the rest of us.
Okay.
Well, I think that I think what I take away from today's presentation, John, is that you have as a startup company, and I know you guys been around a little while, but still you're kind of still in that startup mode. You don't mind more people know about you, right? Yeah. Yep. So I think my perspective is that I think you seems to have that one element that I think will guarantee your success going forward, which is that you represent the future. So this is not like you introducing someone and someone should really try it, but I think what you've done is that you said this is the way to do it. This is the future. So how can you afford not to have it? Yep. Right. So I think the answer to the engineers that I'm thinking of is that he ought to go up to his vice president and says, "Oh, if we get this yesterday, had we gotten this yesterday, it would have been too late, right? We need it now. This is the future. Can't afford not to." And call Hartman, he will fix it.
Gladly.
So anyway, with that, Hartman, how if people really do want to find you and put some money in your pocket, how do they find you?
They can go to our website, www.go2rci.com, or call immediately our office, 630-261-8378. And there will always be a live person, no answering machine.
Perfect. Or they can come to me. I'll only take 10%.
That's better than I was going to offer them.
And Paul, if people like what you have and wanted to find you, how would they find you?
www.advance7.com. ADVANCE digit 7.com.
Thank you very much. And John, and how would they find you?
At LiveAction.com.
Do not Google John Smith, is what I can say.
Yeah, don't Google me, you won't find me. But yeah, just go to LiveAction.com. We have a free download that you can try. So everything you've seen today, you can actually do it on your real networks.
Okay, thank you. All right, so with that, we'll close the show, and we'll see you guys back next week. And if I understand it correctly, we're starting another new format, which is LMTV for Shockies, for the Shockfest crowd. Thanks again, John. Thanks, Ahmed. And it's a pleasure seeing you again. And thanks, Paul. And thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Go out there and be good.